Names of 14 more martyrs of the nationwide Iran protests released. The People's Mujahedin Organization of Iran released the names of 14 more martyrs of the Iranian people's nationwide uprising in November, bringing to 1,615 the number of those identified so far. Meanwhile, the regime, fearing the international and domestic consequences of committing crimes against humanity, is continuing its efforts to conceal the actual number of the martyrs, the wounded, and those arrested. According to reports, the interrogators and torturers have transferred many of the wounded before recovery from hospitals to prison and put them under torture. Many of the detainees, including those in Shiraz, are being pressured to take part in made-for-television forced confessions and speak out against the uprising and the Iranian Resistance. MEK supporters in London show solidarity with Iran protests. Remember 1,500 martyrs. Anglo-Iranian supporters of the People's Mujahedin Organization of Iran in the United Kingdom held a rally outside the Prime Minister's office in London, commemorating over 1,500 martyrs of the Iran protests on the 40th day of their death. They paid tribute to the martyrs who gave their lives for freedom and thousands who have been arrested and face torture and imminent execution. Attendees of the rally in London urged the UK government and its international allies in the European Union and the United Nations to hold the Iranian regime accountable for its crime against humanity. They demanded the international community put pressure on the regime to immediately release over 12,000 protesters. Amnesty International warns over torture of detained Iran protesters. Amnesty International has warned that thousands of prisoners arrested during mid-November unrest in Iran are at risk of being tortured. Calling the arrests arbitrary, the international human rights watchdog said children as young as 15 have been arrested and detained alongside adults in prison notorious for torture. The authorities have arrested thousands of protesters as well as journalists, students, and human rights defenders to stop them from speaking out about Iran's ruthless repression. Children as young as 15 have been arrested and detained alongside adults in prisons notorious for torture. Detainees have been subjected to torture and other ill treatment. They have been beaten, punched, kicked, and flogged by security forces. Many are being denied access to their families and lawyers, Amnesty said in its statement. U.S. strikes Iranian-backed militia in Iraq and Syria. The U.S. carried out airstrikes against an Iranian-backed Shiite militia group in Iraq and Syria. In response to repeated Kataib Hezbollah attacks on Iraqi bases that host Operation Inherent Resolve coalition forces, U.S. forces have conducted precision defensive strikes against 5 KH facilities in Iraq and Syria that will degrade KH's ability to conduct future attacks against OIR coalition forces, U.S. Assistant to the Secretary of Defense Jonathan Hoffman said in a statement.